Hi, I'm Andrew Tobias with the Northeast Ohio Media Group. I cover Cuyahoga County government, and I'm here today with Jack Schron. He's a Republican county councilman. He is seeking the county executive office for the election in November. And so we're going to sit with Jack today and kind of talk a little bit more about his background and kind of what his philosophy is to public office, and we're going to learn more about him. So, hi Jack, how you doing?
Good morning, how you doing?
Pretty good. So I know this, but just for the sake of our, huge viewing audience and our readers that are eventually going to be reading about this, can you tell me more about your background and kind of what brought you here, I guess, to how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, what got me here is I was born here in Cuyahoga County, raised here, went to public school, and then went off to college. I had an ROTC commitment, so I went on to the United States Army. Just before going there, my wife and I got married after college, and we went off to Louisiana, Virginia, Florida. But before going on for an extended period of time, I went on to law school. So I attended Ohio Northern University, got my Juris Doctorate, license to practice in Ohio and Florida. And so I took those skills with me to the United States Army and practiced there. While I had active duty, we had 2 children born, one in Louisiana, one in Virginia, and decided we wanted to raise our family. We wanted to come back to these solid Midwest values.
You bounced around a little bit while you were in the Army.
Well, the Army moves you wherever the Army moves you. They move you to Georgia, Virginia, Florida, because the head of the Army Legal Corps is in the University of Virginia, and they assign you to such remote places as Fort Polk, Louisiana.
Yeah.
So we came back here. So that's a little bit of the background. We did move back exactly to the same little hometown that I grew up in, Chagrin Falls. And so our kids were all raised in Chagrin. We had a 3rd child when we moved back here to Northeast Ohio. And somebody asked me one day, why don't you, if you think that we need some help on the school board, why don't you run for the school board? So I did, and I was on Chagrin School Board for 12 years. There, unfortunately, my wife learned that she had to shop probably over in Solon, because one doesn't shop in your hometown when you're on the school board.
Unless you be asked with questions about curriculum or.
Yeah, you get the things about, did you see what that school board did last night? Right. Oh yeah, they really made some bad mistakes. So it was great. I really loved the fact of being able to be engaged, and one of the most important things that was fun was to actually give all 3 of my sons their diploma when they graduated from high school. It was a real special moment for me. So that's my hometown commitment.
And so why did you, first, why did you decide to come back to Cuyahoga County when you got to see the country a little bit when you were in the military?
Well, a couple of reasons. One is that there were just solid roots in the Midwest. When you get to see other parts of the world, you look at it and say, is this really where you get a chance to analyze? And you say, okay, did I grow up here and do I know nothing else? Or did I grow up here and I've got a chance to see other parts of the world and analyze and compare it? And I said, yeah, when I compared it, this was a great place to come back to, Northeast Ohio and Cuyahoga County specifically. My dad had some health problems. He and my grandfather had started a family business, a machine shop. My dad was at Collinwood High School and started a machine shop there. And so he came back and asked me if I would get involved with the family business and move out of the business of lawyering and run the company. And so I've been running the family business for well over 30 years at this point in time. So it came as a matter of the timing, the desire to be back here, some family health issues and things like that. So I've been back here since 1978 and loved it, and running the family business for about 30 years.
And so I think your kind of entry into the office you're running for now is the Cuyahoga County Council. Can you tell me kind of what interested you in getting involved with the new county government and why you chose to run for that office?
Yeah, I think that we, as a county, I think we all became a little disenfranchised with what was going on. The aspects of the corruption and the graft and all the things that we knew were not part of who Cuyahoga County was, but it happened, and it happened probably, I think, because we had a single party system. If you look at it, we only had one voice that was being listened to. And some people asked me after looking at the passage of the new county and charter to dig into this and say, okay, this is not the right way to go. We all together unified and passed the charter reform. We created this new thing with the new 11 county council people. And so I looked at it and said, you know, I think that's a role that I can play. I can be one of those 11 county council people to try and reset that moral compass back in the right direction. I taught ethics for the Department of Defense. I then continued after active duty in the reserves. For the next 25 years, I was one of the ethics instructors. And I thought I could bring that back to the table. I thought I also brought some leadership and management and business acumen. The other thing we had done during my tenure on the leadership of Juergens is that we actually drove a stake right in the ground and said, we're going to put our new headquarters right in Cleveland. So we became pretty visible. We went on to the old abandoned Cuyahoga Railroad yard. We kicked out the drug dealers, cleaned up the site, and today Juergens is there. So we gained some credibility and some visibility within the county of what we were doing, even within the state. Governor Taft and then later Governor Strickland both carried on that brownfield cleanup site. So we knew that Cuyahoga County was going to have those same issues. And when they put forth the Clean Ohio Fund, they asked me if I would be on the Clean Ohio Fund, both governors. And once I got on there, both organizations asked me if I would co-chair it. So I brought some desire to do things at the national level, having been in the Department of Army, the state level, and I felt it was time to give back into the county with the corruption and clean that out. Let's get fresh started. So I did. I ran. There was almost 100 of us that ran that first time for those 11 seats. It was just astronomical.
Right, that sounds complicated.
It does sound complicated. Yeah, it was, I mean, just for my seat, which I ran on the 6th District, which starts up in Mayfield and goes all the way down to Solon, from Solon all the way over to Brecksville, Broadview Heights, and then up into Seven Hills and up 77. It was a complicated process. My district alone, I think, had 10 people between Democrats and Republicans run. So but it was fun. I enjoyed it. It was a good way to experience politics I guess at the local level.
And so what is it that prompted you to decide to run for county executive? It's a county council is a part-time job, and while I'm sure it's time-consuming, I know a lot of members of council are really engaged with it. It kind of does have that notion of being part-time. The office you're running for is a full-time job, and it obviously has a lot more responsibility and power and all of that stuff. So what is it that I guess is attracting you to kind of attempting to take anyways the next step, I guess, in your political career? Well,
when I looked at it, it's actually, I'd like to maybe bring it back to not necessarily a political career as much as bring it back to my life career. And my life career says that it's something that I think I can make a contribution. When I looked at the resume for the expectation of what they were looking for, you read the job description of a county executive, and I wasn't ready to run for that 4 years ago. I wanted to do what I was doing to see whether or not I could make a contribution. And then when Ed Fitzgerald decided to run for governor, I said that I think they are looking for somebody that could bring that level of experience. So I did. I looked at it. I said, I think that I fit the criteria of what the framers of the charter were looking for a county executive. My 30 years of management and business experience, my 28 years as a leader in the Department of Defense, and now my 4 years on county council. I've seen county government from the inside. I've seen management and leadership, and I think that I bring what the expectation was of that. So I decided, yes, I was going to run, and I fully acknowledge that it's going to be an uphill battle. It has been, because it's it's almost 2.5 to 1 of Democrats to Republicans. But they told me we couldn't clean up the Cuyahoga Railroad yards, and we did. They told us that it would be a challenge to create an online university for education of those folks who want to learn about manufacturing and blue-collar skills, and we created, my oldest son and I, Tooling University, and now they're telling me that it's probably going to be a tough time to win as the county executive, but we're going to do everything we can to make sure our message gets out there.
So can you talk to me, obviously, to get elected, you're going to have to pick up some votes from people who typically identify with the Democratic Party. So what do you say to those kinds of voters who might not be sure about voting for Republican, or just the kind of people might just be used to kind of voting a certain way? So what's your strategy, I guess, to try to reach those people?
Well, I think my strategy is just to tell people who I am, what my background is, tell them my experiences, see whether or not they agree that the resume and the job description fit hand in hand, and then also compare the other resume. Compare my opponent's resume and say, all right, I'm basically going to hire somebody to run a $1.3 billion organization with 7,000 employees and see who actually fits that criteria. When you look at what happened in District 6, my first time, when we had 10 candidates and we eventually got down to the 2 of us, it is a district that weighs every bit as much Democrat as it does Republican when you look at how it stacks up. And we were able to get over 60% of the vote, so we won 60 to 39%. My opponent outspent me 2-1, and I think that what came through was people liked what I had to say about business and economic development and job creation and those components when I ran for it. So the only way I could have gotten to 60% of the vote, only way, was to have already moved people from Democrat registration and independents, because just there weren't physically enough votes to get there just on the strength of the Republicans, and nobody gets 100% of anything. So if you discount the registered Republicans, so I'm going to take that same approach in the county executive race. We're talking to Republicans, independents. About 3 weeks ago, we were in Martha Fudge's parade for the 11th congressional district, and the Plain Deal actually wrote it. It was kind of interesting. They said there was Schron walking down there with 120 people in their orange T-shirts. And they call it the Schron Army. So I thought it was it was a nice way, nice visual. If you're just reading the newspaper to visualize what you were actually going to see on the floor. We're taking our message to every place. Last evening I was at a Hispanic event. The message is going to African American churches. It's going to Strongsville. It's going to Bay Village. I sat down with all the entering mayors yesterday. To talk about what can we do to have a coordinated conversation about how we blend together. And when you talk to them, the same message I heard pretty clearly from the Hispanic community was almost the exact same message that I heard from the mayors. They said people are not listening, and they're not hearing us, and they're not listening to our issues. And I said, I'm here. I understand what it takes. Having run a large multinational corporation, the only way that you get a process improved is to listen to the person who's in the middle of the process and has their fingers on either the machinery, has their fingers into the packaging, or talking to the customer, or whatever it is. If you try to do it from an ivory tower, it'll never work. And we got 7,000 employees. We've got a whole series of mayors and managers, and we've got communities that I don't think have been listened to. And so I think that's how we're going to get our message out. We're just listening to people.
So you, in your campaign, talk a lot about your background and your professional experience and stuff like that. Can you tell me about what your vision is for Cuyahoga County and how what you picture your priorities will be and kind of what your approach is going to be to office?
Sure. The priority for me is when you read the preamble of the charter, it says clearly that of the 6 points on the preamble that talks about jobs and playing a role in the worldwide community, and how do you then, by improving those jobs, how can we actually have more access to service and support and do a better job in servicing support. So it's going to, my concept is two. One is for job creation and economic development, and then the second one is how do we improve the services and support of what we need to do a better job for our customers that access county services. And so that's the direct approach. I really think that the job is the fundamental basis to which we start to build our community back. We've got a lot of people that are out of work. We have a lot of folks that I think would love to get engaged. And so the job is what you build the family, and the family then builds our neighborhoods, and from the neighborhood then we rebuild all of the aspects of our county. And just talking again to the mayors, they're very concerned that that is not taking place right now, and it's drifted away. So I've got a jobs plan. It's pretty direct in that I call it my 3 M's. My 3 M's are the medical community is the single largest employer when you look at the Cleveland Clinic. But a lot of people forget that we actually have 4 major hospital systems here. We have Cleveland Clinic and UH, but we also have Metro General, and the Veterans Hospital is one of the top veterans hospitals in the country. So that sector is employing the largest single employment at the Cleveland Clinic. But then the largest employment community of combined is the manufacturing community. And a lot of people think that manufacturing is gone, and when they go down to their local store and they see a toaster that says made in China, their mind thinks that the manufacturing is gone. But the reality is we still make almost twice as much here in the United States as they do in China. And so it's a matter of rekindling that spark. And we know that manufacturing techniques and things are changing all the time, and even in our own company. And you can look at it at one of our great steel plants here at Arsenal Middle. It's producing more steel than it ever did, higher quality, and it's got less cost and overhead, because that's what the marketplace requires you to be competitive out there. So it's the best of all things going on, in that it's a very competitive product. So that's a little bit of that second M. And the third M I describe as media and more, meaning that the more is all the other things that are going on here. I mean, just here today, we're doing a plain dealer interview, but it's being recorded, and it's going to be broadcast at the same time that you're also going to do it in a print form. So it's recognizing that all these new things are taking place here in Northeastern Ohio and Cuyahoga County. And so you see our theater district is second to none other than New York City. You see that our sports teams are ready to explode as far as all the positive things going on that's going to take place here in this town. But you also see our movies that are being made here. You see our art museums, our orchestra, and now we're going to be a real world player in the convention business. We have 300 conventions that are all built into that Media More concept. 300 conventions for a space that just opened up a little over a year ago. So that's what I mean about all those jobs, because all those jobs then roll into this whole support stuff on this, Andrew, that you've got the hotels, and then you got the restaurants, and Tri-C actually training people to go into the culinary skills, and training people to go into the hospitality skills. These are all good, continually rewarding jobs. I mean, these cities like New York City and around the world make a great set of jobs out of all these support parts that make the richness of this take place. So medical, manufacturing, and media more is what I'm seeing as my job creation, and how we can fit in to train people, to educate and support that. But just as equal as important of this part is how we finish the job of reorganizing the county and what we go on to. The reorganizing, to me, I mean, that's really what county services are all about. We have to provide those services to that single mother who needs the help, to that aging parent that's looking for the support. Well, if you look at what took place on January 1st of 2011, we eliminated the day before all of the management team, the auditor and the treasurer and the recorder, and all those jobs went away, and they got all folded up into this new form of county government. So with that went all the leadership, one might argue maybe we had some leadership problems with the ethics and things like that. But what we did is we didn't transition very well, because this is where this isn't the pretty part of it. There's not a lot of ribbon cutting, and there's not a lot of building opening. This is the blocking and tackling of what we got to do. We've got to provide services. We've got multiple computer systems that are not talking to each other, and because each department had its own human resources, each department had its own way of reviewing people, each department had its own computer and IT support. And so now, with people like our IT support is Jeff Mowry from the county, we're now looking at grabbing these tough tasks. And what will that mean? If we do this right, and we become more efficient and effective in the way we deliver services, so instead of having that young mother having to go to 3 or 4 places or 5 places to get logged in, we'll flip open that iPad, it will log it in, And instead of using flip phone and 20th century technology, we'll be using, the i6 and things like that to speed up the process. And the difference by having somebody that's been there and having done this before, I understand that efficiency here will then allow us to free up dollars to be able to be used for actually delivery of services. So I know that sometimes people say, well, you can't run a business and government the same. Well, no, they're different. But there's nothing different about bringing efficiencies and effectiveness from one sector and actually making them take place here.
So your opponent in this race, Armond Budish, who's a Democratic state representative, for those who aren't following it that closely, has talked some about some of the programs that he'd like to create and some of the types of, I guess, new stuff. I guess he's talking about some new stuff that maybe he wants to try. It sounds like you talk a lot about kind of taking the things the county government already has and making it work better. Can you talk more about how you think your vision for the county might differ from your opponent's?
Well, I think that what you've got to do is, when you got an organization this size, yes, there's some new things, but some of those new things have already been introduced. We just need to make sure that they're running smoothly and efficiently. For example, the $100 million fund that we created, the Western Reserve Fund. We had two.
And that's an economic development fund that was created under the new government. But yeah.
Right, yep. And so we had 200 years of history, and now we started to introduce some new concepts, one of which is the Economic Development Fund. The marketing term is Western Reserve. It had a euphemism of the $100 million fund. And what we need to do is make sure that that's running and working efficiently and effectively. We only, at this point, it's been up for about 2.5 years, and we have about $20 million to $23 million invested. Well, we still have a lot of room to go. So do you need to invent something new? I know my opponent is talking about new ways of doing things, but we already have a way for startup businesses and new startups already built into this plan. We also have a way of growing and developing existing businesses that are already part of it. And then the third sector is we already have a way of helping to address brownfields and reclamation already built into this plan. So do you need to do something new, or let's get this one running and making sure it's running up and great. And then as far as the county government, what we have to do is the way we deliver services haven't changed in probably 20 years. And one of the two things that I'll do is create two task forces right off the bat. One is a business improvement task force, and the business improvement task force will go out and it will bring in the best and brightest of people that are end users who are using the services from the county. It'll bring in the business sector to say, okay, how can we look at efficiency? It will, but one of the groups that's left out or has not been thoroughly incorporated is that group called our county staff itself, and they are the ones that best know how to reallocate and how we can improve it. You ask somebody how to do things, and I can guarantee you they'll give you the list of ways to do it. So the Business Improvement Task Force, and then simultaneously with that, we would do the jobs and job growth to make sure that we're focusing on what do you need, Mr. Employer? What do you need, employee, to be prepared to come into those slots? What is the customer base looking for? And it's not to try to preordain that we're going to go one path or another, because my belief is every job is a good job out there. Some might be more impactful if you happen to be the doctor that's performing the surgery on you at that moment, but just as relevant to the doctor is the person who makes sure the instrument is clean and sterilized, just as much as to make sure that all the linen is there cleaned, like at the Sedesco, which is right next to one of our neighbors, and it's just as important to have the food there and all the other things that actually support that doctor who's actually on the operating table.
Just continuing talking about your opponent in this race, he has recently raised some issues that I know Eric Trickey from Cleveland Magazine has described them as being more partisan issues, and I think kind of things like the so-called voting rights legislation that, among other things, would assert the county's right to mail out unsolicited absentee ballot applications. Another thing that he has raised is there was and this predates me, which is why I had to look at my paper, but there was a resolution that the county passed early on opposing Senate Bill 5, which was a collective bargaining reform that was passed by the state government. And he said that these issues, might show that you're out of touch with basically, I think, the people he's trying to reach, which are largely Democratic voters and stuff like that. What do you think about, I guess, how important do you think that those issues are in terms of, your overall vision for the county? And you talk a lot again about how you can make things work well and how you can make things efficient.
Sure. I think that what happened on those issues is they came up as those kind of votes that were ones that you're supporting something that actually Armond Budish was voting on down in Columbus as a legislator. So they didn't come up very often. But let's talk about the voting issue. I believe that the Secretary of State is the one who actually decides what the rules and procedures should be for the state of Ohio. So I thought that his position was following the law that was actually passed in a bipartisan way. They had actually created exactly what both parties had come together, and that was what was adopted, and that's what came forth. And so he put forth the rules. I thought that was the proper way to go about it. I thought he was the chief person to be involved with that. Obviously, two courts didn't believe it, but the Supreme Court actually agreed with my position on it. They disagreed with my opponent's position, and they did say that the Secretary of State is the person who actually sets the rules in accordance with the state legislature. So if we want to find out who's out of touch, I think we now find out that it was my opponent who's out of touch on that one, because the Supreme Court has made a decision on said the Secretary of State is the person who sets those rules. On issue 5, I thought that it would provide the communities with some ways of controlling the cost. The vote took place. It's behind us, and time for us to move on. You pick a decision, and the voters decided, and I'm not going to challenge anything that was done in regards to that.
Speaking generally then, issues like that are ones that are controversial and get people kind of fired up and stuff like that. How important do you think those types of issues are in terms of, if people are judging whether a candidate's best suited to hold this particular office?
Well, I think what somebody needs to really look at, when you're looking at who's going to hold this office, I think you should look at the total person and say, okay, I'm voting, I can only vote for one person. And so if I stack up everything on that resume, and no person is ever going to fit the bill on the job description is going to be this, and then you're going to take the two resumes, and no person is going to have the resume match up 100% with the job description. So what I would ask them to do is look at what are the important things to you. If all you have to, the surveys in this town and this county, the number one issue is jobs. There's no doubt about it. You can go to anything. It will far outweigh anything else on the list. And I know all the other ones just are paltry. So if that is the number one thing, job and job creation and who has an experience, then I will just ask the person to look at the resume and say which one has a history of 30 years of creating private sector jobs. Which one has a history of starting an entrepreneurship from 0 jobs, Tooling University, and today it's got over 70 jobs. It's educating over 250,000 people on manufacturing and blueprint reading, machining. So then you say, okay, who's grown, who has started businesses from scratch, who has been asked by actually 4 different governors. I've been involved with supporting them on economic development and job creation through being asked to be on support in committees and be a part of that background out there. So I bring a long history of that. And then you look at just my community involvement. I've been on Magnet's board, Magnet is the regional manufacturing group that actually spreads from Cuyahoga County all the way through the northeastern counties and says we're fused together as a body trying to grow and develop jobs. I'm on WireNet's board. And so I've been involved with the job creation on the local venue. And so that's when you look at it and you say, okay, what's really important when somebody makes a decision as a voter, I really think that they should look at what's the number one issue, what's the job description, and then who's actually fulfilling that. Are there things that people are going to disagree about, that they like this or that, and it's down here someplace on the list of 8 or 10 things, yeah. And some people might decide that item number 10 is so critical that I got to vote against them. But I think the majority of people are going to say that manufacturing, job creation, economic development, the medical community, and the media and more are a job plan that they really can buy into.
One of the things that you've been talking about in this campaign is your desire that was actually, as some background, you introduced legislation a few months ago that would actually make county races nonpartisan. Can you talk about why you think that would be something that would benefit the electoral process in Cuyahoga County?
Yeah, I think that the voters of Cuyahoga County live in one of two things. They either live in a city or village, or they live in one of our 2 townships. And if they go and look at that, I think it's of the 59 communities, townships, and villages that they live in, 56% or 56 of the 59 communities are all nonpartisan. If you think about how do you vote in the city you live in or the village, you're not asked for that R or D or anything like that. And my opponent says that somehow that's an educational tool to them, and I don't believe it is. So
do you think the fact that you're Republican says anything about, what kind of office holder you would be?
What it does, as far as if I was running for the governor, if I was running for a senator, if I was running for president of the United States, yeah, I think that philosophy is something of that nature. But here, there's not such thing. When you take home that paycheck from Juergens Incorporated, any of our employees, I don't know what party they belong to. I don't even know if they ever even vote. And they could care less what my party affiliation is. That paycheck is party immaterial. That job is party immaterial. That person who is going down and seeking the support, whether it's an aging parent or whether it's an adoption, there's no Republican or Democratic way of delivering those services. Those are services that we as a county need to deliver. And I think that if you ask the voters, I would be willing to bet if it was on the ballot as a referendum, overwhelmingly we'd be a nonpartisan status. So I actually, as you probably, and I know you followed it, I also suggested a follow-on piece of legislation, which was succession. That we don't have what I think to be a good succession system if 2 minutes after whoever is elected county executive, and I hope it's me, gets hit by a truck on the way out of the door, our succession doesn't have, I don't think, a good effective tool in there. So I believe that both of these, the nonpartisan and the succession, would be good benefits to go forward. I mean, people say, well, the charter folks thought best and they put it together one way. Well, they also put it together with the idea and desire that we would amend this document as we got involved with it and saw how we can improve it.
Another thing I wanted to ask you about is you've raised your pledge that if you were to be elected for a first term, you've committed to running for a second term. Why is that something that you've chosen to emphasize? Well,
I think it's the reason why, a couple things why it's important to emphasize. Obviously, we know that the current county executive did not support charter reform, and you can, if you follow the endorsements, his name is there. Well, the other name that's right above it is Armond Budish's name. And so neither one of them were in favor of it. And 2 weeks before the vote for passing charter reform, Armond Budish had written a check to help defeat and support the anti-charter reform campaign, which was put forth by Jimmy DeMora and the former county commissioners. The reason I think it's important to commit to 8 years is because we want to set that compass that says we're here for the long haul. We're here because we went too far the wrong way, and we want to reset that. Some of these tasks are so big that we have to do, and we have such a long history of one way that to assume that they're all going to get fixed overnight, and overnight is really a 3-4 year period of time is overnight as we define it. Just by reference on this thing, on this, Andrew, the computer systems. When you've got to fuse multiple computer systems that are going in opposite directions together, and having done this in my business, because we've done major computer renovations on 2 different occasions in my 30 years. What it takes is it's going to take almost. I met with Jeff Mowry last night.
And Jeff Mowry is the county's IT
guy. Yeah, I apologize. Yeah, I should have let the viewers know that. But Jeff Mowry understands that right now we're just building the quote to ask people to quote on putting together the software. So that's going to take 6 to 9 months to get that right, get it ready, analyze the bids, and pick the suggested software that we're going to run with. Then the next thing is it's going to take probably at least 12 to plus more months to build the modeling, to do the testing, and then to start to load the live data in to make sure that you don't have a hiccup the day you go live. And then the next phase of this is how do you train and educate your team, not only from a customer service standpoint, because you have changed your model, but how do your employees that are part of this become integrated in the training side. So this right here is about a 3-year cycle. And people think, wow, 3 years, because they're used to walking down and picking up a copy of Microsoft and throwing it in their computer and up they go. Well, that's not how you do it with a package this big. And you saw what happened with the Affordable Care Act. If this gets rolled out incorrectly on the back end because you didn't do the front end correct, all of a sudden the wheels come off. And we can't afford that. We can't afford for that young mother not to get her support. We can't afford to have that adoption go bad. We can't afford not to have the real estate transactions and transfers of the sale of real property go poorly. And so that's why I believe an 8-year commitment is critical.
Because you're describing a really long process that would,
yeah.
or a project that takes
a long time. It's going to cross over.
And if somebody is to change over in the middle of that, so you're saying that would harm the continuity of the project?
Absolutely. I mean, let's look at it. We started these conversations about this subject early on in the current county executive's administration. Well, the conversation started at year 1 and 2. Well, we really aren't all that much closer to putting them in place. So, because the RFQ is just going on the streets right now. So the requisition for quotes and proposals is just getting ready to go on the street. So again, we are now just beginning that 3-year process to go forward.
So you've been describing kind of your desire to see these kinds of things go smoothly. Do you think that is there an element, I guess, of what you're talking about that also shows that you're committed to this job and that you're not just looking out for the next thing? You know, there's a theme, I think, of concerns, I guess, whether people view this office as a stepping stone.
Oh, I think that all you have to do is look at what currently happened. The current county executive early on has decided that he was going to run for governor. I think that well, you'll have to ask my opponent and ask him point blank whether he's being considering your own newspaper has him written up as if he wins this race, is the likely candidate to be running for governor. Or one of the persons that would be at least in consideration. And my assumption is whenever he is being asked, he never says that, no, I'm not considering that. So ask him point blank on that, because I think that it is important. Because we don't want to break this continuity. We're breaking it now. And what that means, it doesn't just mean on a project, it also means the people. I've bumped into good quality county employees who are now working in places like Shaker Heights, and they're working at Cleveland Heights. We've lost them because they sensed that we were going to have a management change within just a few years of creating this new government. And if they sense that every few years we're going to have a change and break of continuity, and what that means obviously is that the new county executive will probably be bringing in their team, or adopting some members that would be carryovers, but there's going to be a change, and you can see how many treasurers we've gone through. You can see the fiscal office has changed over, and a lot of this I really believe is a reflection of that the leadership is going to change. So therefore, the senior management team changes as part of that, because they want to make sure they have a job. They got to watch out for their family, their kids, and so they don't know that the transition is going to be smooth.
So to wrap up, what would a Cuyahoga County Jack Schron administration look like?
Well, the administration, as far as the senior team, would look like exactly like Juergens looks like. It looks like the city of Cleveland, looks like Cuyahoga County. It looks like a blend of greatly talented people that are coming forward to be solution providers. It would be a group of including of all walks of life. It would be all races, all ethnic backgrounds, and everybody would be part of that, because again, my belief is, here's the job description, we need the talent, and bring their resumes and their experiences to come forward. And one walk through it, if you would go through and look at Philip Morris's article when he wrote about Juergens, I think he was impressed with how diverse it is. That's the same way Cuyahoga County should look like. It should be part of the best and brightest to solve the problems for Cuyahoga County.
All right, well, that's, I think, all the time we have today, but Jack, I appreciate you coming in and talking about this stuff.
Thank you much.
And I'm Andrew Tobias with the Northeast Ohio Media Group. Check out cleveland.com for more updates on this race, and thanks for watching.